just be honest and accept that you've lost legitimacy and citizens. And actually, I think it is also very insulting for the government to be looking for these bogeymen. It is very insulting because citizens see what is wrong. We all see what is wrong. And we are giving our time, we are giving our expertise, we are giving our resources to this cause. Why do we need the Ford Foundation to be telling us or to fund the kind of civic education that we're seeing on spaces such as TikTok? So I think it's a lot of dishonesty, but we've seen these tactics before. We've seen these tactics with Moi, except, and I was tweeting about it today, these are very analog tactics of dealing with the digital revolution. A president who is out of touch, clearly out of touch with what is going on. And I don't think that the people around him are telling him the truth. And it will not help him. Certainly, it will not help him. So that is the context in which I decided to respond to Korir, who is somebody that I know, who is somebody that was a year behind me in law school. And I always thought, I mean, this is a good chap. He's intelligent. But I'm asking myself, what is it that happens to these people?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for giving that feedback. Actually, on a larger scale, it spreads fear to the entire population, especially those who cannot tell apart that those are actually, it's a hogwash to write to such a foundation and demand for answers. So, like, him personally, please tell him to stop scaring the population, because that is not a thing that one should do. Because in the village, when somebody just tells and say the government, the government wrote to these people, the grandmother in the village is going to be scared. So they should stop scaring people. Thanks so much. I see that our main guest, Daktari, is on. Daktari, please test the mic as we proceed.
Testing. Maj, everybody is a main guest.
Okay, yes, thanks. Thanks for the
I'm just here to contribute, okay. and I like what Professor Migaya Kech, whom I know, has said. I want to add something, Maj, on what he has said. Professor Migaya Kech is 100% correct, but I think he may have inadvertently left out something that is also true. People like Sing'oei have gained financially, personally, from the government, from the rot. I know him also, and I know for a fact that by the time he was appointed PS, he was living in an apartment on Thika Road. And within 2 months, he had bought a luxurious property in Karen worth 100 million Kenya shillings in cash. And I know many other properties that he has bought. So he thinks this is a threat, direct threat to him personally. And this is what is unfortunate. So I think that, unfortunately, intelligence does not help. And that's why this struggle is more about integrity than intellectual intelligence. A lot of intelligent people in Kenya have turned out to be some of the most corrupt. And they use their intelligence to conceal their corruption, and to the detriment of the population. That's all I wanted to say. I dropped the mic. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So let's proceed in this order. And Hilary, do you want to say something before we proceed?
No, I'm okay. I was checking that other speakers are coming in. I'm okay. Go ahead.
Okay, let's proceed in the order of Dr. Milton, Simon, Ask Blues, and Engineer, and it's 2 minutes each. So after 1 minute, you look at my profile, I'll be raising my hand, and then you have a minute to complete your presentation. So kindly do prepare in a way that you can present your points in 2 minutes. I know it's a very limited time, but please let's try so that many others can speak. So Dr. Milton, over to you.
Guys, do you see like a strawberry? Thank you, Madge, and thank you, Hillary. I want to salute all the other panelists and the speakers, and indeed everybody that has joined this space here tonight. And as always, we pay tribute to the fallen heroes of this struggle. Their hearts and their souls, they didn't lose their life in vain, and we will continue remembering them. And on the same note, I want to salute the patriots in the DMV area of the United States that did march and presented our petitions as the Kenyan people to the IMF. I think their message was loud and clear, and we want to also salute the media houses and everybody that has ensured that that message is transmitted as loudly and as clearly as it has. Having said that, I want to also address myself to what has transpired the last few days and what Zakayo has purported to speak today, issuing threats. He is back to his old skin, his old self, the dictator that he is, the man that is a threat to the Kenyan people. And I want to remind everybody that the William Ruto that was speaking today in Bomet is a William Ruto that addressed the nation the first time. I think that was on 26th of last month, when he called patriots reclaiming, attempting, exercising their right to reclaim their country, calling them criminals and suggesting that there was anything treasonous about the people coming out. That is the William Ruto that we are seeing. He is now cornered, and he thinks that by issuing threats, he is going to intimidate the people. The Gen Zs, the millennials, and similarly situated Kenyans want to be resoundingly clear that William Ruto, when you tell us that we come out and tell you what we want, you are being exactly what you are. Turn deaf to our demands. Don't pretend that you are not hearing. We are simply saying that you must vacate, you must dissolve that government and go home, so that the Kenyan people can exercise the power how they want. And now I want to go to the points that I wanted to make. Number one, if you read the preamble of the Constitution, it talks about what the Kenyan people adopted, enacted, and gave themselves as the supreme legal framework that governs how they operate. Now, I want to remind everybody about why William Ruto, why we are calling for Zakayo to go. Ruto must go is premised on 3 points. Number one, the supremacy of the people. Number two, Ruto is being ejected by the people because he has violated the social contract with the people. And I want, if you allow me, will agree with me that if you look at Articles Chapter 6 of the Constitution, William Ruto has violated every single provision in Chapter 6. And that is why the Kenyan people are saying he must go. The Kenyan people are not saying that William Ruto has an opportunity to reconstitute government. He has violated the social contract. He has violated the deed of contract the Kenyan people gave him on the ballot in 2022. And I want us to be very categorical. What does Chapter 6 provide? Article 75 of the Constitution speaks to the character of a leader. And I want to just make reference to that very quickly so that we have clarity, so that whenever these people are coming out to tell you that they care more about Kenya than we do, those of us calling for Ruto to go, this is exactly what we are saying. Chapter 75 of the Constitution defines the conduct of state officers, and I can quickly refer to that a state officer shall behave, underline, shall behave, whether in public and official life, in private life, or in association with other persons, in a manner that avoids any conflict between personal interest and public or official duties. William Ruto is conflicted from Nairobi to the farthest world. Compromising any public or official interest in favor of a personal interest. Is William Ruto guilty of that? The answer is a resounding yes. Number 3, that is Article 75 1C, demeaning the office the officer holds. Has William Ruto demeaned the office of the presidency? The answer is again in the affirmative. So what does Article 75 provide? That a person who contravenes Clause 1 shall be subject to the applicable disciplinary procedure for the relevant office. William Ruto has violated that. But I want to go further to Article 76 and again remind us of the financial probity of state officers. William Ruto has violated that. He is running commercial enterprises that are beneficiaries of state tenders, which is against the Constitution. William Ruto has confessed to being a beneficiary of activities that are prohibited under Article 77 of the Constitution.
Dr. Nyakun,
He actually,
Dr. Milton, kindly
yes,
try to land.
say that again.
Kindly try to land. We're actually giving 2 minutes.
Oh yes, okay. I'm doing that now. I want to say that William Ruto confessed that he was apparently or allegedly given a private jet. Again, the Constitution prohibits receiving of any gifts, and if you do, then those gifts are on behalf of the Kenyan people and they must be declared. When William Ruto tells the country and the world that he was given a private jet by a friend, he has violated that Constitution. William Ruto has been lying with his teeth, looking at Kenyans. How does he now pretend to tell us that he has not demeaned the Constitution? He has not held the office of the presidency in contempt. William Ruto has violated. I want to invite us to read Article 232 of the Constitution on the principles of public service. He has violated every one provision of those under Article 232. William Ruto has failed as a symbol of national unity as required under Article 131 of the Constitution. Good people, there is nothing else William Ruto can tell the Kenyan people, and we must be angered more today that he comes to lecture us, he comes to lecture Kenyan people and speak as though the office of the presidency is a gift, is an inheritance he was given by his parents. This is a privilege that the Kenyan people gave him, and the Kenyan people are now demanding that he relinquishes. Failure to which they have to take it by force. And I want to, in conclusion, tell the Kenyan people that removal of a president is provided for in the Constitution. And therefore, anybody telling us that we have to wait for 2027 is living a dream of the past. And they must be reminded and called out that time has come. You cannot operate as Moi without the constitution that Moi had. You cannot operate as Moi without the information space that the people lacked during the Moi regime. This is a new era, and everybody must wake up and smell the coffee. And the sooner William Ruto realizes that and vacates, the better for everybody. He needs to pick the cue from Emmanuel Macron, who actually called for a snap election when he realized that the rug was being pulled under his feet. This is a time that patriots must come out, and the funding of the revolution is the pain that the Kenyan people have been subjected to under the illegitimate exercise of power by William Ruto and his cartel. I drop the mic and hand over.
Thank you so much.
Back
Thank
to
you
the
so
host.
much, Dr. Milton Nyakundi. And now, guys, I do not want to appear like I'm biased, but we have over 100 people.
By William Ruto and his cartel.
Okay.
I
Please
drop the mic.
Yeah, please mute.
And hand over.
Okay.
Back.
Thank you. So we don't want to appear like we are being biased, but we have over 100 people already requesting. So I want to also request the next speakers to really restrict to 2 minutes each. Simon, you're next. Over to you.
Okay, thank you for the mic. I think I'm audible enough. Am I audible?
Loud and clear.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm Simon. I'm from Nakuru. So I had a question for Dr. Miguna. Like, is it in order, like, we have more than 40 tribes in Kenya, and we have Kikuyu, who are currently having like 7 top seats at the government. Since they are doing this with their chest, they are having their, like, we know the parliament we have, it will, the CSS who are being nominated, they will go through the parliament, since we don't have a parliament here. Is it in order, like, we have those ethnics, like, they are not being heard about their voices? I'm about to tunafaa kuwa, like, it's Kikuyu and Kalenjin and the Luya people. So that's the first question. The other thing I want to tell people, it's on Tuesday. Please, people, let's be there. And one thing I noted, most of us think police are our best friends. They are no longer our friends. And I'm advocating for this. They are no longer our friends. They are beating us. They are killing us. I think from next week, we are not going to be friends. We also have weapons. We can do to them what they are doing to us. I'm not happy seeing like my people of my age being killed by the police. Like what happened last week in Nakuru, it's something like still in my mind, and I'm feeling like I'm just fed up with this government. Those police have orders from above. That boy who was killed there, he was not in the demos, but he was killed. He was just carrying like a paper bag from the supermarket. He was going home. People, police are not our friends. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Simon Gathoni, for really keeping it within time, and our condolences. And really, it's unfortunate. Police brutality has always been a problem in Kenya and keeps taking away lives. Daktari is noting the questions, and then I think after 3 to 4 speakers, he will chime in, or if he wants to chime in between, he's free to chime in. I see Ask You dropped, so let's go by Blues. Blues, 2 minutes each. A Bluesman committee. Okay, he's not speaking.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I'd like to start by saying that urging the revolutionaries to take note of the fact that the government is doing all it can to infiltrate the demonstrations. So to be at least keen, every step we make, we try to be as effective as possible, because we see so many times it becomes boring due to infiltration. And then next, I've heard so many people asking about that the movement no longer has agendas due to like the rejection of the bill. But I urge the influencers to be some agendas actively, such as the arrest of to try and mention them precisely. We should also bring the agenda of the story of recycling those CSS who are recycled. So we should be bringing them out clearly, loudly, in terms of posters and everything, so that they can be seen as the main agendas that we have. And then also the justice for the fallen soldiers also should be a key agenda, which is being shown through posters and posts every day, so that we are not mocked like we don't have any agendas as per now. And then this story of that we are leaderless, and also I'd also like those who are doubting whether being leaderless can work. I think the main reason for being leaderless is not to have anyone calling off the demonstrations so that they go for negotiation. So again, I'd like to encourage activists to prepare some memoranda, and also so that they can like to prepare some memoranda and present to the president, so that like we can be seen, at least we are approaching for dialogue, but not anyone calling off the demos. I hope I'm clear a bit. And then something else. I've noticed that so many of the demos that we had were always successful, but not very successful, simply because maybe zinakuja kushika late, around maybe 3 to 4, when now night is approaching. I have this idea which I always talk about in many spaces, that we try and insist on starting demos early. If we start demos as early as 7 a.m. and maybe by 8, we are seeing something tangible on the streets, everyone will be encouraged to come out, and it will be even 5 times more effective than it could have been when it started at maybe 10 or 11 or later. Something again I'd add is about education, just insisting, let's keep on educating people out there. Because there are some people who still feel like Gen Z, they are not genuine. Our gen, like we are just being anarchist. So let's continue educating people both online and offline. Mostly insist on the fact that the country is not going in the right direction. That is mostly in terms of debts, accountability, and also our voters. Like as voters, we don't prioritize the right priorities when looking for who to vote. Like I see so many people like to vote for someone who is close to some powerful people like the presidential candidates. And we should educate people that when you elect someone who is close to a powerful presidential candidate, that person now is even able to steal more than even someone who is not closer to that candidate. So I think that is all.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Bluesman, comedian. Yes, and I would like to encourage that we really keep it the time 2 minutes each. And so I forgot to mention to Gadoni Simon, because I understand that he was very frustrated and even talked about arming himself against the police. I'd like to emphasize that this gives power to the oppressor. Because when they brutalize you and you are armed, also they'll say they are defending themselves. So at the moment, the demonstrations should be and have been peaceful. So once you arm yourself, you're going to be mistaken as a goon, even though you are defending yourself. So we take what you say with concern, but I would really just warn against, arming oneself as a civilian. It can cause a lot of chaos that I want to put on record. Now, let's proceed with engineer. Engineer has dropped. Mork, please go. Yeah. Mork, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Maj. Thank you, guys. Thank you, the host and the co-host, and the guys in the speaker and the guys in the listener. Yeah. First of all, I just want to thank the Kenyan people for coming out in the street to ensure that the demand for the good governance. That is that's something that its time has come, and we need to ensure that it has come to pass. I don't have much to say, but I just want to tell people that we should remain focused, and we should have a main agenda, that is Ruto must go. And also, this one I said in one of the spaces yesterday, we really need to focus because right now the member of parliaments are coming back. And I know there will be some of the ones that the president would force them to go through and pass. For example, the reintroduction of the office of the first ladies and all that. As a people, we should ensure that we cripple the parliament. Parliament should remain null and void, and we should ensure that the members of parliament are stopped from even attending their sessions, so that we remain as we said that, okay, we are focusing on Ruto must go, and when Ruto is going, he need to go with everybody, everyone in that government, not only the CS, even the MPs need to go with Ruto. So people need to be focused, and people need not to take the fear. I know they will be selling fear to people, like today's gathering where the president really sold a great fear that they will dealt with people excessively, and that means according to his speech, the guy is even ready to do the worst. People should not back down, and people should not do anything, but people should focus on Ruto must go. Thank you much. I will stop at there and let other speakers go. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Hannah, over to you. And I see Dr. Mkawasi is on with us. Welcome on board. Hannah, over to you. Hannah, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, Marge. Can I come in a few minutes, please?
That's all right. So we go to the Godfather. Godfather, take a go.
Thank you, Marge. Thank you, Hillary, the other co-host, and our key speakers, the General, Migaya Cage. I think Agustino Neto is not yet here, among others, and those who have already given their sentiments on this current affair that is developing, has been developing for the past few weeks, if not a month, in the country. So mine is very simple and very quick. To begin with, I'm asking, our speakers, our panelists today, we see Occupy JKIA trending. This is something that has been mooted before. Now we are at it, and it seems like today it was the #1 trending hashtag, so to speak, in the country, which means on the 23rd of July, we are going to occupy the JKIA. What portends, or what are the aspects of trying to occupy JKIA, apart from on the face value we are trying to stop international travel so that the country can actually understand that we are serious? Can we also have occupy Uhuru Park as well as JKIA? That's also another question that I'm also pushing so that our speakers are going to answer, so that we have some clarity, and maybe that will also be very interesting in terms of trying to stretch the police force in terms of how much they may have to deal with. And lastly, the revolution is on. No retreat, no surrender. Patriots, let's march forward. Thank you so much, Madge, and the other co-host, and Hillary, and let's see others. Thank you.
Thanks so much. I would like to give this opportunity to Dr. Mkawasi, if you're ready to say something before we proceed here.
Thank you so much, Madge and Hillary. So a quick comment I'd like to make is, as we've been proceeding and watching things unfolding, that I've been interacting quite some with a good number of reactionary voices. So I'd like to speak a little bit on this. Now, if you voted for Ruto thinking that he will bring down dynasties, and you say he did bring down dynasties, and that he will give back Kenya to the ordinary mwananchi, now, what triggered the revolution, which is the finance bill, proved that that was a wrong promise, because all he did was snatch the system from the dynasties and inject it with steroids. Because this right now, what we are watching is like dynasties on steroids. All demands from reactionaries who are claiming they are on the side of the revolutionaries miss one thing, and this is how you'll recognize them. They strategically go silent on acknowledging stolen funds, stolen public funds way back from Kenyatta 1. A key reason why the hideous and inhuman injustices injustice of poverty is going on right now. I mean, there's no way you can see your relatives or you yourself experiencing the level of poverty that is going on right now, and think that the dynasties have been removed and we are on our way to becoming a better country, and that we should give a chance to what is unfolding. That is something that I think we have to be careful about when we start having people who are telling us, you know what, I'm not quite sure about where you guys are going with the revolution. I think you should just wait for the old guards to make things right. The revolution you have triggered is ours too, we in the diaspora. And I think this is an important thing for me to mention to my diaspora friends. Kenyans abroad we have to pool our resources, both financial and intellectual, in providing the support necessary to build the Kenya that Kenyans have already articulated they want. And that Kenya is already ideally in the Constitution. We went through this whole Constitution revamping. It's there. Transforming those ideals into reality is the work of the revolution. We have the map. We know the destination. We need the vehicle and the fuel to get there, and that is what revolutions do. So it's necessarily what I'm looking at is a journey of a people that are taking us from unrealized ideals to a reality. Now, the reality of a successful revolution becomes a nation that accommodates all the citizens by providing opportunities and the possibilities that we're looking for. It doesn't take much for a Kenyan abroad to go back home and just see where we are. I mean, you can go there with all your money and have a good time, but you know the reality, and you cannot be blind to that. No matter what, you cannot be blind to that. Now, if along this journey that has been parked by Gen Z, the drivers entrusted with leadership become rogue or something, then the revolution, it becomes necessary to offload whoever it is. So you also have to look at whoever it is who's driving this bus, and you have to always be conscious of where you're going. Where are we going? There's this notion of a leadership, a leaderless movement, and that does not mean that it lacks leadership. So a leaderless movement, we may not be able to see who's behind it. We may have a group of people who are going towards a certain destination. But one of the most important things is to also figure out how to create that leadership structure. Beware of the pitfalls of leaderless revolutions, for example, like the Occupy Wall Street. It had its, you can say its gains, because that will make you avoid the mistakes that were made before. The most important thing for me, I think, is to have an unbreakable core. How you create that unbreakable core is for you guys to figure out, and then you tell us what it is that we need from here. Because one thing we have, we might know, we get involved every day with what's going on the ground, but we still have the advantage of having physical safety. And another thing that I'd like to say, because this is something that is said a lot by people around me, that these are kids, they're younger than us, your kids and nephews and nieces age, they really are going to need help. Now, it's for all of us. This revolution is for all of us because we're all engaged in building a Kenya. Be bold in your ability to actually form a government if that becomes the place to go. Peaceful revolutions, for example, the Velvet Revolution, which I've mentioned before, that were led by a generation as educated and as knowledgeable as you guys have shown to be. These guys formed a government when they least expected to stand in that place. They formed a government using a very peaceful revolution, and matter of fact, they steered that same country into becoming two sovereign states. So, I mean, they did this incredible thing with a peaceful revolution and young people, university students. And to date, those nations stand strong. So you guys can do even greater things. You have to be able to stand in that space and say boldly, yes, we can be able to form the government, the next government, because we have proved we have the intellectual capacity and we know what we want. So we guys, me, my diaspora people here, I'm saying stand by. Let's stand by. Let's be able to give the resources, whatever kind that's needed on the ground. But let's not watch the acceptance by reactionaries of something that we see as recycling the same rot, recycling the same system that has for decades brought us to where we are. Because for crying out loud, we have to at least say no. We know what our relatives are going through. We know this. We know the fees we pay all the time, the hospital bills. I mean, we can be on the phone, you're somewhere far away, but you're on the phone with someone who's running through hospitals, looking for the cheapest hospital to get their kid treated. And I'm not saying this because I'm making it up. I'm saying it because I've been there. So these are not realities that we don't know of. They're realities we share. And we in the diaspora have to be able to say no. We've got to be able to be a part of this revolution in some form, a very effective form. Over to you, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Harry, for the very, solid submission there. And so now we move to Josephine. And if any of the speakers is speaking longer than 2 minutes, it's because we have guest speakers also. So don't feel like we're being biased. Josephine, over to you. 2 minutes, please.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Henry and co-host and fellow Kenyans. Both in Kenya and diaspora, I want to say good evening. I thank you also for giving me this opportunity to ask. And my first question, I would want to direct it to Dr. Miguna. And this is my question for you. Do you think it's the ideal time now we push for amendment of our constitution so that we can limit positions of leadership and how leadership is deliberated and given to recycling leaders who have ever been in offices in memory, and you want to die in the positions without letting other people get these positions? second, do you think that if we do that, it would eradicate the levels of at the levels of corruption? Given that at least somebody knowing that I am in the government for 10 years, that means before I get to that position, my lifestyle have been audited, and any other more monies that I would be having, I should be accountable to the citizens of Kenya, and that will keep away the monopoly of people thinking that they are superior and they own this country at our mandate and they can just take us the way they want. So those are my two questions, and my input to Tuesday's incoming Occupy all the airports. I am all the way from Mombasa, and I believe I will be out there in Mombasa doing the needful, like any other Kenyan, fighting for our rights and ensuring that we meet the standards of what we need, because we are entitled to good governance, we are entitled to quality services and with no corruption. We are entitled to get essential documents within less than a week, but this is not happening. So that leaves us in dilemma as citizens. You realize that you need an ID, but you cannot get it within the right time unless you bribe. You need a passport, you cannot get it until you bribe. You need a good certificate of good conduct, and all the same. Having said that, I would also find it ideal that also Dr. Miguna, you would advise on what do you think of us getting some few people who will be actually prioritizing our agendas as we move forward. And I believe that we need to have some leaders per se, not leaders per se, but people who can, once we bring the ideas together, we can actually prioritize them and say, this comes as priority number 1, number 2, and number 3, so that we don't look like we are in a confused mood, not being able to say what are we doing, and we keep on deliberating on what are we doing, what are we supposed to do first. Thank you so much, and I really appreciate if you give me that feedback. Thank you.
Yes, and thanks you so much, Josephine. Just a moment, Hillary. Thanks, Josephine. I wanted to say I think this is the time that Dr. should really just chime in, but before he does, Hillary, over to you.
Yeah, Dr. as you come in, I've seen Gerotich join us. She's one of the speakers that was invited to come and share the idea. Otherwise, thank you so much. Dr. back to you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
And good afternoon if you are joining us from different time zones. I have been listening keenly to the contributors, and all of them are on point. I will start by expressing my condolences to those who have lost loved ones. And I would want to express my concern that we have as of now, about 300 missing persons, people who have simply vanished or disappeared and whose whereabouts are not known. I had raised a concern a week ago about information I had received concerning hundreds of people who were killed in Githurai and whose bodies have not been traced, and who I understood, yet to be verified, that they were cremated at the Kahao barracks. I still would like to challenge the Kenya National Commission for Human Rights, the Law Society of Kenya, the defenders, various human rights defenders organizations, the media, the DCI, and various government entities, including Ruto himself, to be able to produce a list of all the missing Kenyans since the protest began. We need to have a clear idea as to how many people have actually been abducted, how many people have lost their lives or have been killed, how many people are injured, and how many have simply disappeared. And we would want to assume that those who are missing are probably dead, because a human being does not go missing. These people were active just weeks ago. They engaged in protests, and they cannot simply disappear. Two, I would want to address the issue of the so-called government pathologist Johansen Oduor's declaration that the decapitated and mutilated bodies that were found at the quarry had no evidence of bullets in them. One, I want to note that all the bodies had decomposed and were at different levels of decomposition. All the bodies were mutilated, meaning that there was no body that was intact and had been packed into sacks. It is, I believe, impossible for anyone to imagine that Dr. Oduor would have been able to examine decomposing bodies and trace bullets that had killed them if that is how they had died. It is also impossible for anyone to know whether these bodies had been tortured before the individual succumbed to torture. All of them were killed. All of them were dumped near a police station. We can all reasonably conclude that all of them probably were killed by security forces. And we need answers. We need answers now, and we don't want excuses. It is important for us to note, my third point, that as we speak today, Finance Bill 2024 is the law. It automatically became law on July the 18th, after 21 days had expired from the time that the president or Ruto purportedly rejected it. It has not been repealed by the National Assembly. And we have not had Ruto or anybody or any of the leaders at the National Assembly say that there is an intention to repeal it. Therefore, we have to say all the people Ruto has killed so far will not get justice until all the grievances for which they participated at the protests are addressed. And that starts with Ruto himself. My fifth point is, Ruto has no tenure. He has no security of tenure. Professor Migaya Kechi has tenure at the University of Nairobi as a distinguished professor of law, or of the university, because I think he's a distinguished professor. And once you're a distinguished professor, you're a professor of everything. But Ruto has no tenure. The 5 years that Kenyans delegated to him the power to govern, not to rule, was a temporary delegation. It was not a permanent delegation. The delegated power was withdrawn on the 25th of June, and Ruto stands popularly impeached by the people. Therefore, he is legitimately in power, and all the threats he's issuing against the people are an aggravation to the grievances that we had when the people took to the streets and declared that they had withdrawn their delegated power to him. Therefore, Ruto's declaration of war on the people is a declaration of war on all Kenyans, and it's a declaration of war on the Constitution of Kenya, which vests the power to recall him as their delegated leader back to where they want him, home. We want unity of purpose. We want people to realize that no matter our differences, and these differences could be generational, these differences could be ideological, these differences could be intellectual, these differences could be gender, these differences could be tactical or strategic. We have to realize that the only thing that must unite us, and unite us now, is that all Kenyans feel that Ruto has offended them to a point that it cannot be cured. The looting of the country has reached a stage where it having them apprehended, charged and tried and convicted and then sentenced, and the properties they have looted repatriated, is recycling them. We have Chirchir reappointed to a bigger ministry than where he looted before. And remember, this man started looting at the Interim Independent Electoral Commission. He was involved in the Chicken Gate. Then he graduated to the Ministry of Energy. And the former despot Uhuru fired him because of corruption. But Ruto felt, in his lack of wisdom, that this is the man he needed in the same ministry where he had been fired for corruption. And he continued to be corrupt. And he was recently fired for corruption. Then Ruto brings him back. That shows you that Ruto is redeemable. There is no discussion, no dialogue, or any kind of reprieve or anything that will change this man. He thinks that after he has killed a number of Kenyans and abducted them and disappeared them, that he has scared the Gen Zs and the millennials and the patriotic revolutionaries who have been facing him every week on the street. And the time has come when we should demonstrate to Ruto through action that we are not backing down. How do we do that? My humble submission is that we should have marathon daily demonstrations and protests. And these daily marathon demonstrations should take place all over the country. Whether on Tuesday, some of the patriots will head to JKIA, others must head elsewhere. Because if you all head to JKIA, he will marshal his goons to JKI only. Then we will leave the rest of the country for him to roam about and to threaten us. We have to scatter his goons everywhere. As many people are heading towards JKIA, many people must head to Parliament Square and Arambe House and the CBD and occupy all of it. Occupy everywhere should have meaning. When patriots in Mombasa, in Nyanza, in Western, at the coast, at all and in all counties, gather in large numbers, wear Ruto's goons down until he falls. The last thing I would like to say is in answer to the three, I believe there were 3 or 4 people that asked questions before I conclude. Number 1, Simon Gathoni said, police are not our friends. We also have weapons. We can use them. Maj was right. Yes, police of Kenya have demonstrated, at least the majority of them, that they are not our friends, that they are serving a tyrant and they are harming us. And it is not in our place to fall into the trap of arming ourselves to confront them. Because when you do that, you may have to form an army to fight them. We don't have time. We don't have the resources. We don't have the arms. They will just pick us one at a time, and it will it will actually serve their interest in the sense that they can now say we are violent, we are chaotic, we are anarchists. And the world and the press will more than happily champion that trumpet. We cannot give them that. We have to remain peaceful. We have to remain organized. We have to remain fearless. And it is through that we are going to wear them down. Just like many other countries have gained and won a revolution peacefully by being unarmed. They did so in France in 1789. They did so in Sweden in 1809. They did so in Norway in 1814. They did so in the Netherlands in 1848. They did so in Austria in 1918. They did so in Turkey or Turkey in 1923. There was a mixture of that and armed struggle in Cuba in 1959. They did so in Portugal in 1974. They did so in Bahrain in 1971. They did so in Spain in 1978. They did so in Philippines in 1986. They did so in South Korea in 1987. They did so in Poland, where it was basically the workers protesting continuously for years in 1988. They did so in the Czech Republic in 1989. They did so in East Germany in 1989. They did so in Romania in 1989. They did so in Indonesia in 1998. They did so in Serbia in the year 2000. They did so in Georgia the year 2003. They did so in Nepal in 2006. They did so in Myanmar with mixed results in 2011 because the military eventually overthrew the revolutionaries. But they succeeded in 2011. They did so in Ukraine in 2014. And they recently did so in the Philippines again. And this history of resistance has always resulted in the country becoming more developed, more prosperous, more industrialized, and the standard of living of the people have always been better from the regime that was replaced. So we can do it too. People were asking me on X, oh, Miguna, all the examples you've given are not in Africa. Kenya is going to be the first African country to do it. We can be the first. Why shouldn't we? All these countries and peoples that I have listed were not born in Pluto. They were not in Jupiter. They were on planet Earth. And so we can do it too. The next question was by Plusman. Memoranda to a president that has been impeached, a president that Kenyans have recalled, is not necessary. No, we are not going to have a memoranda to any president, the illegitimate president Ruto. Our memoranda and memorandum is on the streets of the Republic of Kenya. He knows what the problems are. And of course, he cannot address them because he's a pathological liar. He's a narcissist. He's become a tyrant. Godfather asked about Occupy JKIA, and I believe I've already answered that question. Then he also raised the issue of Uhuru Park. I would discourage all of us from going to Uhuru Park. Why? It is fenced. It is secure. It is a trap. Once you go to Uhuru Park and they surround you, they can butcher people without any restraint. And there is not much impact you will do at Uhuru Park. In fact, they can let you do your thing there for 1 year and it will not affect anybody. The purpose of occupying public spaces is not just to make sure that we speak to Ruto and his thugs in one voice loudly, but to disrupt everything, to disrupt transport, to disrupt business, to disrupt all activities in the country. That's the language he understands. Ruto understands the language of money and business. He understands the language of how he's going to be perceived abroad, the handlers that he has as the IMF. You saw that the IMF already released a statement trying to appear contrite when they have not withdrawn fully their punitive economic programs that Ruto is trying to impose on us. Josephine asked, should we amend the Constitution of Kenya? The answer is no. We should not amend the Constitution of Kenya. We should implement it fully. We cannot amend something that has not been fully implemented. The Constitution of Kenya is the one giving us the right to occupy the streets, to impeach Ruto, to recall him, to say that he has lost legitimacy and he must go. If we pay attention to the alleged call to amend or whatever, we will be being sidetracked, like Raila Odinga, the conman, tried to do with Uhuru Kenyatta in 2022, when they brought us the poisonous chalice, BBI. We should not fall into that trap. We want our constitution implemented in full. Now, she also said, would it eradicate levels of corruption? The constitution would not eradicate anything. As it is right now, the constitution already proclaims itself and provides for a governance that is not corrupt. But of course, it is individuals, human beings, that are not enforcing it, especially Chapter 6, and continue to be corrupt. If you do not punish the corrupt, you will never eliminate corruption. And you cannot punish the corrupt if you have corrupt people in power. So we must remove all of them. Then she talked about priorities, 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever. No, our priority should remain one. Ruto must go. You see, when you have such a clear, simple, singular priority, nobody will be able to confuse it. You cannot give Ruto demands 1, 2, 3, 4 when you want him to go. You don't expect him to be the one who is making changes. We don't want reforms. We want a complete, total revolution, an overhaul of the entire system. Let me finish, and I'm sorry to have gone on for a while, with what Frederick Douglass said. Frederick Douglass was an African-American writer, preacher, abolitionist, orator, anti-slavery activist. And he said, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favor freedom and yet depreciate agitation are men, and he meant also women, who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want rain without thunder and lightning. They want the ocean without the awful roar of its many waters. This struggle may be moral, may be a moral one, or it may be a physical one, or it may be both moral and physical, but it must be a struggle. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will. I drop the mic.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ray, for your submission and also for answering all those questions that participants had posed. And now we're going to welcome Gerald Teach.
Is anybody hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you. We could hear you. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hillary, can you check if...
Yeah, Dr. Ray, can you hear me?
Okay.
Dr. Ray, you can drop and come back.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
fine.
Hillary, please sort him out, but let him know that we heard everything that he said. Yeah, so as we proceed to Gerald Teach, I would like to encourage us to also... Oh, somebody muted. Somebody muted everyone by mistake. I've now unmuted. I was saying, okay.
Maj, did anybody hear me, or was I talking to myself?
We had everything.
We have.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I think Geraldine just dropped, Hillary, if you can check with her. So, but I was about to say that before she proceeds, the next speaker proceeds, we need to also not forget to build the network by following each other, because that's the only way that when we want to share information, we can keep sharing and, you know, getting informed or getting to know what is going on. So, Tom, you're next. 2 minutes each.
Thank you, and I greet all Kenyans in the name of your ancestors. Well, I just want to still ask the general some questions, because in the nature of the conversation that I've seen that he's there, normally he is open to take questions. First, considering his suggestion that we need to implement the constitution without necessarily considering amending it, what suggestion do you have, or how do you think we can be able to meet the 2/3 gender rule, which is a provision in the constitution? And unfortunately, even right now, the parliament did not meet that requirement. In Article 27, Clause 8 and Article 81, Clause B of the Constitution talks about that for both legislative and generally the parliament, so that we meet that. Your suggestion. Number two, I'd like to seek your advice. What advice or lessons can you give the Gen Z leaders who are currently in the forefront of these protests? Another question that I would like to ask is that what is your general vision post success in this revolution? Because I agree with you that indeed we need to win this revolution and we need a total overhaul of the system. Finally, if you may, would you advise, or how can we consider this movement to effectively utilize decentralized organization to maintain momentum and achieve its goals? Because in my opinion, I really would wish us to not necessarily go without a proper organization. I believe we are leaderless, but my perspective, we are leaderful, because most of us who does whatever we are doing, and I believe we do it right most of the time, we are self-motivated. So I believe we are leaderful, but not leaderless. But I suggest we better be more organized. What is your perspective with regards to that decentralized, organized movement? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tom. Let's have Six next, and Dr. Mwakawasi and Professor Migaya Kit, should you want to chime in between also, just feel free to open your mic or raise your hand and I'll see that. Six, please, we're going 2 minutes each. Over to you.
Me as I just came here to tell these innocent Kenyans that it's time to take back this country. As I always say, on Tuesday, we are all marching to Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, and there are numbers. So as a people, we should come out. We should not sit online and say, let them go to Amke. Tuende. Personally, I said I've not been in church in 11 years, and today I went to church to confirm if there is any MP who went there or any leader, so that I can condemn them. So guys, on Tuesday, let us turn out in numbers and to take this country back. You heard Ruto threatening us on in Bomet, and that is the leader that we have. It's so unfortunate we have such a man as our. I don't like him, and he's not my president as much as I'm concerned. So I'm just here to rally everyone. Let's turn out in numbers, and I said I'll always stay loyal to this cause until the last day, and even if I die, I'm not afraid to die, and I'll be on the forefront on Tuesday. I'm not just coming here to speak, then I don't act. I've been in all the demonstrations since they started, and on Tuesday, I'll be on the forefront. And I said, there is no money that will buy me as an individual, because I've made enough money to sustain me for the next 10 to 15 years currently. And what I want is a better country where my parents, my children are going to enjoy life. Right now, I have a patient who has cancer but cannot be treated because hospitali za ushago haziwezi mtreat. I have to always bring that patient to Nairobi each and every day because it's only Kenyatta Hospital that can handle this. So what kind of nonsense is that? Yesterday I was informed the governor of Busia, a very close friend to my dad, has employed all his friends from Karen, yet hakuna watu wa Busia hawana kazi. And that has to keep happening daily. Okia Omtata, the one we call a saint here, ameandika his close friend as his PA, who is a very corrupt man. And these are things we have to get and learn daily. So I'll say this, whatever Tom said, we will have a plan when we cross that bridge. So let's right now go take back our country. When we reach there, we have a constitution and Kenya is a democratic country, and we will know we'll find the right footing after we've dealt with this rogue system. Thank you, Maj.
Thanks, Six. Can I assume that you listened to what Dr. was saying the whole time? Had you already joined? Because he recommended that the protests be spread, but that people should not go to Uhuru Park because it's like fenced and would. I just want to be sure that you had that.
Yeah, I had, and that's why I say we are occupying Jomo Kenyatta International Airport.
Okay, I was just confirming. Yeah. Okay.
Uhuru Park is not important. Uhuru Park is just some sort of a park. If you go into a park or you get into a house and a fire starts burning, it will burn you all down. You'll be suffocated. JKIA is in the open. People can find their way and people can occupy. That is where the economy of the country lies. Those in Mombasa are occupying Moi Airport. They are occupying Kenya Ports Authority. In Kisumu, we are occupying this, is it Jomo Kenyatta Airport? In Eldoret, there is an airstrip there. That is what we are doing. We are occupying all this where the economy of the country lies. Tukimaliza hiyo ni CBK.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And please, as you go out there, remain peaceful and be watchful, and don't give power to the oppressors where they can come back and say, you know, they were beating us and that's why we had to shoot them. Thanks again for joining. So now we go to Biril. Biril, over to you. Biril cannot hear me. So Kwanza and then African origin, and Jerotich has just shared that she's settling and then she's going to come back. Kwanza, then African origin, 2 minutes each.
Thank you much. Thank you, everybody. I'll begin with a question to Dr. Miguna. It's very much evident right now that we cannot depend on the goodwill of the president to resign. The president is not altruistic enough. He's not selfless enough to do that. I think history bears me out on that. In 2007, 2017, 2022, we've seen him. So we cannot rely on his goodwill. But then we are pushing this hashtag, and we are all determined to say Ruto must go. I still haven't found somebody who can outline the step-by-step process of removing from power when he remains obstinate. Because we have ruled out violence, and let's say the pressure does not work. What other practical steps can be taken to remove the president from power lawfully? Number two, I listened to the president when he made his remarks today. I will say that when a hyena wants to eat its children, it first gives them a bad name. The president called the participants in the movement anarchists. He earlier called them treasoners. And this should warn us how the establishment intends to crack down on free speech, the freedom to assemble, as well as the right to protest. But I would just urge everybody to not be scared, do not be afraid. We can expect that in the coming days, perhaps the state will use its machinery to pick up bloggers, protesters, and etc., and charge them with various crimes in the penal code and possibly in the computer misuse and cyber crimes act. But I would call upon all my colleagues who are lawyers to perhaps take some of these cases pro bono. We must push back against state excesses. That is the duty we owe ourselves and to posterity. Thank you so much, and God bless.
Thanks, Kwanza, for keeping the time. Hilary, do you want to say something before African continues?
No, not really. Jarate, she's already with us. She's coming back. Okay,
great. So
right.
You've had Kwanza mark his title. If you need help somewhere, so not title, but handle. If you need a lawyer and you cannot find a lawyer, feel free to inbox him. But please, guys, when inboxing, yeah.
Okay, I can hear you now. You went.
You thought somebody had taken me off here. It happened.
All right.
So I was just saying, guys, Kwanza is offering pro bono services as a lawyer, and I believe he's going to also speak to other friends who are lawyers. So do check his profile and inbox him when you need help. But I would also like to emphasize that people inbox with genuine information, because otherwise if you have false information coming on board and people are saying my friend has disappeared, but they haven't, it really wastes a lot of time and it discourages those who are helping. African, over to you, and thanks Kwanza for that.
Okay, thank you very much, the panelists and everyone who's here. My condolences to those who lost their lives, and much quick recovery wishes to those who got hurt in the process, in this important process of getting back our country to the right track, because it's long overdue. In my opinion, we haven't done anything ever since we got out of the colonial rule. The country was handed back over to the neo-colonial puppets, the ones who are actually calling the shots in most important organizations, most important posts in the country. And this is what's driving this cause, the anger. It's about this. It's something that has been living in us for a very long time. Okay, I just have like 5 points to put across quickly, and I hope that Daktari Comrade Miguna, long live, will weigh in on some of the points that I'm going to put forward very quickly. They talk about leaders. A lot of people have mentioned about having leaders. In my opinion, we are not yet here. Somebody mentioned about, we'll talk about this when we get there. This actually is creating a sense of confusion. It's creating among us. And the enemy should not see our weakness, should not see the fault lines amongst us. And this talk of leaders at the moment is a good call, yes, but not the right timing. So Miguna spoke about priority. We need to prioritize, and we can make use of, we can utilize like this X spaces to constantly and regularly update ourselves and speak in one voice and kind of have one direction. Because this talk of leaders, we have noticed that we have this enemy is infiltrating it, and they're talking, we have a lot of propaganda coming up to divide the cause. So we don't have space for division now. We have space, the only option we have at the moment is focusing on the goal, which is taking back our country. Number two, we have one Makwasi from the diaspora who spoke about resources. I'm also in the diaspora. And maybe also Comrade Miguna will speaker. The issue with resources we are having is about accountability and putting these resources to use. And who are the question we need to ask ourselves, who are the right people to handle these resources? We are very much okay. For me, I've tried to look through whom can I be able to actually mobilize my resources towards and have them utilize it accordingly. We have those young guys on the who needs utilities here and there to facilitate the whole process. It's not an easy process. It's taking too much of their effort, too much of their energy, and we need some kind of resources to help mobilize and give them a positive attitude towards the cause. So maybe we can discuss on how are we going to mobilize our resources, the resources that we are actually capable. A lot of people are ready, a lot of people are willing, but you get some question marks in the behind the scenes, and you tend to ask yourself, is this actually true or false?
Please try to land so that you can also give other speakers time. Remember, our time limit is 2 minutes, and you said like you have points which you wanted to.
Thank you. I'll just combine the 3 more points to put across. Please allow me. Sorry, my apologies. Remember, this is also a revolution here on Earth. So let's put all our efforts, and I'm very much willing to give each and everyone time to add. Anyway, this cause, if we are not able to mobilize our wherever place you're going to occupy, be it JKIA, be it state or be it parliament, be it anywhere we are talking about, we have to have numbers. Numbers are very important to mobilize. In fact, if we delay this, it's going to give the enemy power to restructure, to reorganize. It should not take us 1 week before this person steps down. And if we have the numbers, I agree that also we need to avoid Uhuru Park, but also we need numbers. We need to have some soldiers over there. We have to occupy every inch of the CBD, every inch of the economy, so that the despotic regime can have the pressure, can feel the pressure. If we just have small patches of people, we are not going to succeed in this. We'll go to JKIA and will not succeed in that if we are lacking numbers. So numbers are very important. And then also the general spoke about the constitution.
Yes, would you kindly land, please? I know it seems unfair.
Yeah, just give me one.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Sorry. Just give me 1 point to finish on the implementation of the constitution. I just wanted to mention quickly, please. Thank you very much. We need to actually have a conversation about cutting down on these unnecessary posts that are leading us to unnecessary spending. I met they actually told us Kenya is a rich country than any countries that we have here. But the problem is overspending, and our alliance with the IMF and all these organizations that are out to finish African countries. So we need to speak about implementation of the constitution and also cutting down on the salaries and all these unnecessary seats that we have in our country. So thank you very much. Sorry for wasting your time. Viva.
Viva, no, that was not time wasted. We're just trying to manage the time so that at least more people can get to speak. Thank you so much, African. I would like to, moving forward, just share that, of course, there are many points that we agree with when other speakers have spoken already. But let's avoid repetition so that at least we have, new fresh points coming in. With that, I'd like to give the mic to Hannah Ali, then Kenyan lady. Hannah?
Asante, Emaj, Hillary, Daktari Miguna, everybody who's on the platform, Wakenya wote hamjambo, na watarajia kila naheri popote mlipo. Yangu si mengi, to be honest, much. A lot has been covered, and a lot have been said. Lakini yangu machache. Kwanza maswali moja nataka pia nimalizie, nimuulize daktari. Mi nishindwa huyu Zakayo alipokuwa anapatiana speech ansema he done everything ambao tumemuuliza. Mbali na hayo hakuna kitu amefanya. Bado ana ile utu wa kuja kusimama mbele ya watu wananchi aseme amefanya hii, ametimiza vovote vile majenzizi na wanakenya ambao wamejitokea nje kwa maandamano amefanya. Sasa ni jambo ipi alitimiza? Haya, bado hiyo anatuambia urongo right in front of our faces. Ya pili kwenye hiyo speech yake alisema ya kuwa wameniambia nije kwenye X nikaja na hawakuweko. And that for me raises a question mark. Alikuwa anatafuta nani? Maanake anasema ankuja kwenye X, lakini wale aliwakujia hakuwapata. Sasa alikuwa anatafuta watu gani? Maanake Wakenya walikuwepo kwa hiyo space, ingawaje mimi sikuenda. So alikuwa anatafuta nani? Hiyo ndio maswali mimi ninashangaa nayo. Ya pili, kuna mambo mengi ambayo yanaendelea ambao si jambo nzuri, ambao hao wenye weko kwenye macheo wanataka kutenganisha Wakenya. Manake kuna toxicity mingi ambayo inaendelea, kama ni kwenye online, kama ni wapi, yani wanatafuta fitna ya kutenganisha Wakenya ambao wameungana mikono, manake wanataka a Kenya that delivers for everybody. Me, I would ask people and I would urge people, do not focus on those toxic conversations, do not engage in them. Put your focus on wanting Ruto to go and getting this system totally fixed so it can deliver for everybody. Na hakuna mahali hakuna ufisadi. Paka wanyama wetu wa porini wameingiliwa. Paka our natural resources. This thing is deeper than anybody can imagine. And the beginning of correcting things starts with Ruto has to go. All these other things are sideshows. Let's focus and let's focus on the matter at hand, is fixing our system and Ruto going. If we are sidelines with all these toxics that are coming out and people focusing on people, we are not focused on anyone. We do not need those toxic. People would be watatumiwa threatening messages, wataambiwa mengi, and please, one thing, trust yourself and trust your gut instincts. There's a lot of people who have been bought and wamemagwa katikati ya watu wengine ambaye anaweza kuwa mtu yoyote ambaye unamdhania ni mtu muungwana, lakini hujui hali yake ashabadilishwa, na tunaziona watu wengi wanatokea ambao wamebadilishwa. Hayo naambia mjitahadhari nayo. Asanteni.
Asante sana, Hannah Ali, and that's a very good point there. The language of this space is not only English but Swahili. So wale ambao wanataka kuongea Swahili, mmekaribishwa sana kuongea Swahili ya tubaguzi, na tunataka pia tuongee Swahili. Tujaribu iwe sanifu. Kama uwezi kuongea Swahili sanifu, pia unaweza ongea Sheng, nasi pia tupate kujifunza Sheng. Asanteni sana. Saizi tuenda kwa Kenyan lady. Kenyan lady, karibu sana.
Asante. Asante sana Maji, asante sana Hillary, na pia Dr. Miguna. Asanteni sana. So Kitu cha kwanza ningetaka to address once and for all is a diaspora influence and diaspora input into the movement. And I want us to conclude on that here and now, because we don't need some of these conversations to be repeated over and over and over in every space. So this is what I want you to do, Madge, if you'll allow me, Madge and Hillary. Our question over the longest time has been, how do we do it? So the first thing that we have done, tumekuwa tukicontribute kwa nini, kwa Hanifa, you know, for all our beloved heroes ambao wametuacha na wale wengine ambao hospitalini na wenye tunatafuta. So we've been focusing that energy there. We need you guys to come up with another mchanga where diaspora can put their contributions there for everything else other than you know, the medical and whatever Hanifa has been doing. I want us to have this conversation for the very, very last time, as far as, you know, diaspora contribution. Please, can we do that? And can we agree to have that mchanga so that we have that focused area? Ndio tuache kuleta, you know, mandhari ya nini, ya diaspora. Let's have that as a focus when we come out here, and then give us the mchanga and let us put our focus on it. The other thing that nataka kuongelea about diaspora is that we know very, very well that they are very, very big and major supporters of like Ruto and the current government in their diaspora, especially in the United States. And what I want to say is boycott. So what has been happening lately, kama kwa mfano, we do know very, very well that the officials of the CBK are here. Na wamekuwa wakicirculate for us who are community organizers. Wametupatia hata flyers, we circulate them around. You know, they are looking for a way that, you know, they can sell us treasury bills and treasury bonds. Like, you know, all these things have been happening under our nose. We need to boycott these things as the diaspora. Our focus right now is to get our country. You remember the time for COVID, we were able to actually run institutions. We were able to, Kenya was able to survive with our remittances, plus other subsidies that were done then. So boycott. There are so many activities that are going that are pro-government right now, and I will call them out one by one whenever I get a chance, but right now it's not the time. I just want to highlight about the CPK governors who have been moving really, really slowly from one state to the other, continue to boycott. I know we have been boycotting kidogo hivi chini bila kuambia but let's pick up about this stuff. The other thing that I want to mention also, ambayo, you know, it's common for us. Many of us have resources. We have invested at home. We have hospitals. Start treating people. Start using your ambulances to ferry people. Bring them in. Collaborate with us who have already been on the ground from the get-go. Donate ISO ambulances. I mean, come on, you guys, you know yourselves. Na wengine hata mnanisikiza hapa. That's the other way that we can contribute. We have invested over and up in Kenya. And this is the time to rise up and save our country. So hizo ambulances zenye tumeweka in our hospitals that we run, all those resources, the nurses, the whoever, you know, all those resources, let's bring them up together as we have been doing. You know, today at least I was able to speak on the specifics. And then the other thing that ningetaka Daktari Miguna to respond to, the reason that we have seen the comeback of those corrupt leaders and CSS who have been put back is, number one, for voter suppression, and number two, to continue and murder our Kenyan Gen Zs, Kenyan young people as they picket, as they do whatever they're doing. So my main concern are those two things. And actually, for the voter registration and suppression of the IEBC, we know why those CSS were brought in there. Even if we are not waiting for 2027, we still need our children to have their IDs. We still need our kids to have the voters cards. How do we move that forward, given that those people who are nominated back are supposed to suppress onto that length? Because kumbukeni, watoto wetu wanahitaji IDs. You know, watoto wetu wanahitaji voters card. Voters card may...
Can you hear Kenyan lady? I cannot hear her anymore.
No, she disappeared.
I can't hear as well. Kenyan lady, can you hear?
there to say. Thank you so much for the platform, Marge and Hillary and Dr. Miguna and Kings.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Go on, Kings. Yes,
Marge, maybe, yeah, maybe I think Rocky Okari has been here for so long, and then Honorable Nyeko, also Professor Obert, I think something like that. They can go, and then Neto, I've seen you, Karibu Sana, Neto Agustin.
Thanks.
Yeah, maybe you can go now after those three.
Yeah, just a brief one, just a quick rebuttal. The point that Kenyan lady is bringing out about some people in the diaspora supporting the presidency, especially in the US, those are tenderpreneurs. They don't want to speak up, and they're only waiting for chances to cut deals. So when you're told that the eco levy, for the pads there, they want to really have the local manufacturing where we don't have those companies. It's because they've cut deals out there with the people who want to bring in those to come in to set up those companies. But as we wait, are they going to be fast enough? So yes, we know that there are people who support not just the presidents, but the current administration because of corruption. That's the unfortunate thing. And so if you look even at the past voting results of the diaspora, you know the trend how it went. That's the reason why even the current government and the last government do not want to have diasporans actually vote, because they know that if diasporans would vote and even register, we would be really a force to reckon with. So yes, thanks for being very honest and talking about that. But I must also reassure you that even here in Germany, the tenderpreneurs are always just lying low. They can never speak up. At this point, I would like to have a diasporan who supports UDA or Kenya Kwanza come in and say, guys, I support them because of ABC. No, they will disappear. The only time you will see them is when the president is going to the US. As we speak, there's somebody who's even used their credit card to pay for Kenya Kwanza. He's not been paid. He's crying. But who the hell pays for a government? What were you buying? And actually, at this point, I'm going to tell the government not to pay back that money, because there's something he was buying, honestly. Yeah. And that, yeah. So that is the point. So those who are supporting, and they're even looking away when there's an injustice happening, it's just because they are profiting from the regime. That's the chiming in I wanted to put out there. Kingsman, whom did you cue next? And then I see Jerotich is back. Welcome on board. Kingsman? Yeah.
I think Jerotich can go, because you were told you had given her the mic, and then after Jerotich, Rokio, and then Honorable Nyeko, Professor Obert, and then you can give also Neto the mic. Now that he has been
Jerotich, over to you, and welcome to the space.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Good evening. Yeah, we can hear you.
Great stuff. Thank you. First of all, thank you for this space. It's been great to be doing a lot of listening. This past month, I have listened and learned a lot. And I don't have very much to say, just three quick points that I'd like to make. First of all, in memoriam, all of those 51 plus Kenyans who have died in this cause, we want to remember them. We want to honor their memory. We never want to forget them until justice is served, because this justice delayed is justice denied, and we're not seeing any justice. I want to agree with General Miguna when he says focus must be single-minded. If we straddle multiple agendas and follow conspiracies down various rabbit holes, we will be systematically picked out and picked apart. And this is what we are already seeing. You cannot ask someone, in this particular case, President Ruto, who has refused to implement the Constitution, to behave in a lawful manner. In fact, today when he spoke out in Bomet, when you hear him speak like that, to change public opinion and begin to actually nod in agreement when our young people are killed, picked out and shot dead. Dada Mkawasi, you said a while ago, not on this particular space, that we need to understand and know our mission, wherein our ideals lie, and thereafter our strategies and our tactics. And in this particular case, I'm fully with Dr. Miguna when he says Ruto must go. If we say we want to do this, reject the recycled CSS, do this, do that, we're going to have a litany of requests and woes. And we're expecting somebody who has refused to implement the Constitution except extremely selectively to behave in a lawful manner. So we must stick to the mission that Ruto must go. Now, I just also want to say that brutality is on the rise. I walked alongside LSK last Monday, tracking the illegal arrests and seeing what happened to our young people. The snail pace of this injustice system is utterly, utterly shocking. And the sheer brutality of the crackdown really completely, amazed me. And I said, this regime is nowhere near stopping. And in fact, all of those 109 Gen Zs who are charged with being drunk and disorderly, for heaven's sake, I looked at them and I said, these are our children. I'm the mother of Gen Zs. And I say they have been beaten. They were limping. They were struggling. There was this one young lady, Nadia, who had been beaten half to death. How do you go ahead and hurt our children like this? And this regime absolutely does not care. And I spent the following day with them, and I spent time just listening to them and realizing these are not the criminals, the anarchists, all of this rubbish that is being put on them. And we have to find a way as the wider Kenyan community, because this is not a Gen Z struggle, to get involved. Because these 109 who are charged, who will be back again in court on the 30th of July, who will once again get caught up in this system of injustice, will eventually get tired. We cannot also allow our Gen Zs to be used as fodder for police bullets. And this is linked now to my final comment, which is the intergenerational nature of this struggle has not yet come to bear. We have started to coalesce on social media like we do here, but we are not yet on the streets. And I'm speaking as a Gen Xer, and also the baby boomers who are still able to be on the streets, and the early millennials. We have abrogated our responsibilities, and we need this critical mass. If we're going to sustain Ruto must go, whether it's Occupy, JKIA, or any other place that is public and that we can sustain our action, we can no longer push our children to the front line. And when I say that, I say children not because I'm patronizing them, because they're over the age of 18, they're adults, they know their minds, they know themselves, they're absolutely brilliant. I have spent time on the streets, I've been to most of the demonstrations, walked alongside them, they know exactly what they want. But when I say our children, I'm just creating that knowledge that we have pushed a certain group to the fore, we idealize them, we idolize them, we praise them, and then they're the ones who sleep in Central Police Station without food and with bruises all over their bodies. At some point, there will be no more bones to break, and this is what the regime is counting on. So we need to rise up en masse and say, we are all taking our country back. And if we can get to that point, then what we talk about around the single-mindedness of the mission, Ruto must go, we will then get there. Otherwise, they will pick us out as they're already doing, and we'll be relegated to these spaces. So I just want everyone to be encouraged, those of us who are in Nairobi. I appreciate also the diaspora present space, the request for pathways, for support, financial and otherwise. Let us all pull together, because also the division, the diaspora versus those on the ground, what does that even mean? We are all Kenyans. We understand the Kenyan reality no matter where we live. So it's about the unification and the closing of ranks, even at this moment when the regime believes that it has, scattered us enough that we will not come back together again. And we need to be like that shoal of fish that is swimming in unison in the ocean. You do not know who the leader is and who the head, the tail is, but they will scatter, come back together, and keep moving single-mindedly until they arrive at their destination. And this is the encouragement I'd like to leave us with, and say we cannot lose hope. This is the moment not to let go. This is the moment where we say, actually, we have our mission, we know our ideals, and these are the strategies and the tactics that we will employ. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thanks, Gerotich. Hilary, were you saying something? Because there was an echo, or was that from Gerotich? still?
No, it was not. It was not mine. I think everything is good now.
Okay. You want to say something, or shall I just proceed?
Go ahead.
Okay. So, Jerotich, thanks so much. The time you mentioned, where was the president today? Sorry, I've forgotten. Didn't he?
The president was in Bomet today.
Yeah, the moment you mentioned Bomet there, you disappeared for 2 seconds, so we couldn't hear you. Maybe have you again. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Okay. Yes. I was just simply saying that when he was in Bomet, even though he was saying that enough is enough and we are coming down hard, I could also tell he went to a so-called safe space. But that space is not as safe as he imagines it is, because it is these same residents that stormed the governor's offices not too long ago, if I'm not mistaken. So wherever he goes, the reception is not as robust or receptive as he would like it to be. So we should not be fooled when such pronouncements are made. The lukewarm response that he received indicates that revolution has seeped into every corner of this country. That's what I was trying to say.
Thank you so much, and thanks for your submission, and really for also coming on board to share with us, and for being on the ground to walk around with the...
Not even I can't hear you.
Okay.
I don't know what is happening.
Can anyone hear me?
I can hear you, Maj. I think the problem is Hillary's mic.
Okay, but Hillary...
I can hear everybody, but I can't hear Maj. It means that Maj has a problem, but no worries.
Okay, I can try. Let me cue somebody else, then I try to drop and come back. Okay, so now that was Rokio, and over to you. 2 minutes, please. Rokio, can you hear us?
Rokio Kari.
Then we go to Prof.
Rokio Kari, are you here? Maybe
there was an Honorable Nyeko.
Honorable Nyeko, go ahead. Then we go to our speakers again.
Prof.
Yes. Good evening, comrade. Am I clear?
Yes, proceed. Proceed, yeah. We can hear you loud and clear.
Can you guys hear him? I cannot hear him.
Kingsman, who is speaking?
Okay, Neto, can you hear the speaker?
No, I'm not able to hear him.
Okay.
Thanks much.
Yeah, welcome. So, Prof. Obert, kindly proceed. I think the speaker dropped. I cannot even see him. Prof, please proceed, and then Neto is going to be next.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. This is a beautiful space. I'll be following this. I want to really thank Muger and then Hillary, Kings, and everybody.
Okay, he dropped.
He has dropped as well, so I think Neto can go.
Thank you very much. First of all, Maj, thank you so much for the mic, and apologies. I think I logged in at 7:15, but for some strange reason, I was invisible until like 1.5 hours ago. My apologies. I did apologize for joining in late, but I was on then at 7:15. Second is I'd like to pass my condolences to the fallen comrades over the past couple of weeks. It's sad that we continuously lose people to a trigger-happy regime, but I hope that Kenyans will be able to overcome. The third thing is I'd like to really thank Kenya's diaspora, for the support that you've been giving. I mean, I just listened to one of the speakers here speak about the support that the Kenyan diaspora has been giving, and I really think that part of the things that we must push when we take over the next government is, we need to have a proper foreign policy that is really Kenyan diaspora looking, to really make sure the diaspora pillar in Kenya's foreign policy is something else that is fairly very solid. Having said those opening remarks, I'll speak 3 points and then support General Miguna with his permission in answering about 2 questions, some of them that were asked that I hope I can then support in answering. Number 1, listening to President Ruto today in Bomet, I was more than ever convinced that this regime is fallen. His regime is collapsed, and if at all you saw his body language, is someone who who is generally cornered and he has no more space, and unlike what my colleague Gerald Richard said, that, he went to what he thought was safe space. He is like a cat, he really cornered in a corner. And so I really think that the regime is falling first. And, in terms of when is what we really need to anticipate that it is falling is beyond, is very clear right now. I mean, from his remarks and from how he reacted today. But the second thing I'd like to say is that, the president did surpass himself in the past week by just doing very horrendous things, things that are completely unimaginable. He has given us, 4 pressure points, which is actually what I want to stress, because then I'm sure my colleagues are going to speak on other things. By giving us a completely crazy group of cabinet secretaries, people he had erstwhile dismissed, he provides 4 chances for Kenyans to reorganize properly. Number 1, during the approval hearings of these particular, because there are going to be like 3 or 4 stages before the cabinet secretaries actually, then if at all the regime is still on, there will be 4 categories or 4 steps for them to be approved. Number 1 is the first approval hearings of the committee, the appointment committee of Parliament. That's a space where we can really, of course, again, try have another chance at occupying Parliament and really bring down the regime in terms of showing how the people, some people have mentioned a couple of ministers who have been brought back, who have been engaged in crazy corruption, theft, plunder, and, and that's, it's going to be a chance to really show the whole world how untidy this particular regime has been in terms of, when we highlight the theft and corruption. But of course, giving Kenyans another chance to occupy these places and keeping on the pressure. The second chance, of course, is going to be when, Parliament tries to vet these people. Should Parliament be such crazy to even try and want to vet these Kenyans? That particular day is going to be a chance, for Kenyans to sit down and really go back to Parliament now, this time properly, in a way that Parliament will never forget. The third chance, of course, which, part of the things that a political party that I'm part of, the United Green Party, will be being caught, to try and petition if the president really can, within the constitution, really choose or bring back people who are he has dismissed from cabinet, because the constitution really stipulates that once a state officer has been dismissed, then they become disqualified for office. So the United Green Party and a few other people have been called from tomorrow to really petition and ask the High Court if it's possible, even before we vet whether they are thieves or not thieves, if someone who has been erstwhile dismissed can then still qualify for office. But the last pressure point we have in what President Ruto did hand over to us is the day he tries to swear in this group of cabinet at Parliament. That would be a classical chance, the best chance. You have all of them at State House. The swearing in is taking place, and that will be really, really a good chance to organize some things around the State House. But having said that, he has given us a couple of pressure points which are on offer. I'd like to say a third thing that I really like when I had General Miguna speak to. I think we need unity of purpose. We need a convergence of minds right now. Of course, there are various voices speaking out there, but the best way to deal with nations when we get out of something like what we're just about to get out of, we will be in a revolution. If we do not have a broad coalition of forces, if we do not have a broad coalition of different ideas or different thoughts, then, Kenya then would easily slip down a vicious cycle. That is the reason why we might be having differences. Different people have different thoughts, but I really think that one of the things we must do is find unity of purpose. We are Kenyans. This Kenya is ours, and it's fairly, very important. Those are the first 3 points I wanted to make. Now, I want to try and help General with his permission and other speakers to answer a couple of things. I think in the occupation of JKIA, and General has said very well, yes, it's a good point to do, but let us also, in tactical war, of course, you go for, military objectives, strategic military objectives. So there must be strategic points. So, JKIA, of course, is a strategic point. But again, we must always keep the focus. And General, I think, highlighted very well. The parliamentary square where there's parliament, the offices of government, the offices of judiciary, that becomes a perfect place to occupy in terms of how we move forward. So yes, whereas it's possible and good thing to try and engage in places that makes the government feel the pain, like JKIA, Mombasa, like I had someone say, at the airport. It's important to keep the focus in, where the government is installed, and that's why Parliament, the Supreme Court, State House, and other places then become strategic places with regard to how to occupy. And of course, some comment that was made, a gentleman in Nakuru having been frustrated, and Maj and General Miguna did speak to it, a gentleman in Nakuru who has been frustrated that police are brutalizing. The only reason why we find legitimacy is because of the Article 37 provision of the Constitution. We should always be peaceful and unarmed, to protest. If the moment you pick up arms, you then, of course, degenerate in something else, and that, of course, will be a different ballgame. So we must always ensure that we abide by the provisions of Article 37, which is peacefully and unarmed to petition the various authority. I'd like to speak to the last two. The first one is with regard to a comment that was made on the two-third gender rule principle and amendment. So yes, it is important that there are a couple of constitutional amendments that need to take place. But I think what General was speaking to was more that we should avoid right now. What is pressing is not really the constitutional, the two-third gender rule constitutional amendment. At least not for now, until we get this particular regime out of power. But it is true, and it will be important that the two-third gender constitutional principle needs to be enacted. Should we then able to realize the aspirations of the Constitution? So yes, it's an important thing that needs to be done. Just that in the manner of sequencing, it is not that is pressing right now and also urgent. By the way, again, the two-third agenda principle is what gives us a chance actually to dissolve this parliament and also to dissolve, to make sure that Ruto goes home. Because you remember that particular advisory that was given by Justice Maraga, pursuant to Article 261(7) of the Constitution. So using the provisions actually the two-third agenda rule that the gentleman raised, it is also possible to actually send this particular parliament home, and consequently, of course, the presidency and all of the elections subsequently. So yes, in the long term, is no constitutional amendments. Lastly, in terms of this particular sector, I'd like to see someone actually talked about to suppress voter registration or voter registration. I really think that what is important in the voter registration process is the nomination and establishment of the IEBC. So whatever we can take, part of the demands that we must make in the next couple of weeks, as we say, Ruto must go, we must also ensure that the IBC then is in place to make sure that all these Gen Zs who are in the streets participate in the next general election whenever it is held, so that at least their voices is not just heard by manner of the protest, but also in terms of the vote. So what is important is the IBC. Let's keep the focus, let's push that and make sure that, before this regime goes home, if at all it takes too long, we must have an IBC in place so that at least we help us to take Kenya back to constitutionality. Thank you very much, Maj, and I'm happy to support whenever I called upon in the next couple of hours. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Neto. Thank you, Neto, for your submissions. I think what I like to make a rejoinder on is what he purported about, President had already gazetted on why he fired all his cabinet secretaries. My question to him, also to Daktari, because initially we had said that we need a we can ensure that we are giving this government, we are giving them hell in terms of operations. Because if indeed he found that these people are not transparent, he had listened to the people and he decided to disband all his cabinet. So then, how did he sanctify them a few weeks later? And then he has also found now that Kina Duale can come back. Today in Bomet, he was at home coming for David Chirchir for his reappointment back to the cabinet. So legally, is that even feasible? Because you gazetted that you've disbanded your cabinet the next day, and then you've also given clear reason as to why you did. A minute later, the same characters are back. So I don't know, Daktari, you can advise on that if people can go to court and ensure that he does not even proceed with the people that he has proposed back from the ones that he had fired, I think, a week earlier. So before you respond, maybe we can give the mic to Prof. I see you're back. Unmute and say hi. Say I'm a Kenyan.
Sorry, am I audible, right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you. You can go, and then Honorable Nyeko, Daktari, you can make a rejoinder on the questions that have been asked, and then we can add more speakers later.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm very happy about this space, and I thank the host and the co-host and all the speakers. And Doctor, I joined when you were elaborating on the key points, and that was amazing. You see my thumbs up and appreciated all you said. That was very detailed. That was very international, and that was very, very empowering. And having said that, I put something on the throne or comment section or something, is how to plan a peaceful protest. Number one is very important, is assembling. Assemble. Number two, organize. Number three, define. Number four, research. Number five, prepare. And number six, notify. Number seven, publicize. And then after that, and then the next one is know your rights in plural. All right. And then the other one is remain peaceful, which the doctor emphasized, which is absolutely paramount. And then the next one is, that's protest. So it's to do it, is to speak out on issues that we are, as Africans, as Kenya, we are passionate about, which is very simple. A singular goal is that Ruto must go. And when that happens, you've given the light to shine upon not just Kenyan alone. I want to just be on, without making mistakes. It is not Kenya alone. It is the entire Africa. And to add to what Doctor said before, I put on the comment section or something or whatever. I'll do that later if I'm not done it. In 2022, Sri Lankans, they did that. That's not too far away from that. Right? They did that. They hosted, they kicked out the stubborn president, which was a military officer. So that being said, folks, we are not giving up. Personally, and my team and all the folks I know, when it comes to contribution, when it comes to idea, we'll support Kenya. And Kenya must succeed. That man, I was in this space when he came, the president of... So that being said, folks, we are not giving up. Personally, and my team...
Professor, there's an echo, and maybe you try to land in a minute.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, someone, I don't know, someone was hearing myself. So I think I finished my point really, and then what I will keep saying is that let's not forget those key points. Let's make it simple, simplicity, and then let's keep on be persistent, and we'll get the result. I want to round up with this. Imagine when you're building a big mansion. What do? You lay the blocks, you lay the foundation, make a concrete foundation very strong, and everybody's sweating, everybody's even getting tired and whatever, and we have a break and have some meal, refreshment, and come back again the next day. You're doing the project. It's consistent, right? And you have the finance, everything's in the bank, right? And when the mansion is built, because you didn't stop, what happened? And you'll say, whoa, I will just build this fantastic mansion. And the world is just saying it, like, for example, Sagrada Familia in Spain or Paris, the tower. So this is what we're doing right now. So I want to encourage everybody, let's not give up. Let's publicize it. Let's tell the word, and let's go out there and root out the criminals out of Kenya and the entire Africa. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Prof. And yes, so as we proceed, I would like to encourage Gen Zs who are in the space to request for the mic. And I would like to also underline that we are moving forward also going to give priority to Kenyans in Kenya to come in and also share their point. So, Honorable, 2 minutes, please. I hope you can speak on Nyeko. I hope you can speak now.
Yes. Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. We can hear you. Please proceed.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm called Nyeko Paul. I'm from Uganda, but I'm currently in the Caribbean. I'm so happy to be here again, and I'm so delighted to be part of this movement. I just want to say that as a Ugandan and as an African, We are so proud of you Kenyans, especially the Kenyan youth. You see now the wave has reached Uganda, and you heard yesterday or today our president was warning everyone not to march to parliament. So that is the power of this movement that started from Kenya. It's also moving to some other African countries. So I'm just standing here in solidarity with you people to encourage that we keep the fire burning. Personally, I'm so disappointed with the president of Kenya right now, Mr. Ruto. How can you be like a dog who vomit and then lick out the vomiters? That cannot happen. When he fired all his government, he brought some hope in me. But after a day or two, the dude reappointed everyone from where he fired them from. So literally meaning that he gave Kenyan and African a fat, big middle finger. So my being here, I've been following all these spaces, but today is my greatest day in history that you gave me a mic to speak. It's just to encourage everyone in Kenya. Please stand strong. We are with you in prayers. We are in Uganda. We are in other parts of the continent. We are standing with you, and we pray that the change comes to pass. I'm equally disappointed with my cousin, Raila Amolo Odinga, for what is going on right now with the dialogue. The young people of Kenya never call for dialogue. I'm from northern Uganda, and people of the lake are our cousins. So literally meaning we are all one people. So what he is doing is personal interest, which is not the interest of the fellow Kenyans. Lastly, the energy, the motivation, everything that we are watching on TV, it's giving the wave to all the region of Africa. So we are not talking alone. We are all here following you. It will be very nice that the wave comes to Uganda, goes to Congo, goes to Rwanda, goes to Nigeria, goes to Ghana. Everyone is watching Kenya. So I would like to say thanks so much, and let's keep the power moving. Let's occupy the strategic places like the airport, like what I'm hearing. Those are very nice options. And I'm going to pledge my help. I don't know who to give my help to, but I'm going to put my email on the comment section so that even if $100, even if 500 shilling, Ugandan shilling, I could send it for the youth who are going to be on the street, can buy some water or can treat some injured person. So I'm going to put my email on the comment section. Someone who is reliable can get in touch with me, and I see what I can support as a Ugandan, as a Pan-Africanist, and as an East Africanist. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Honorable Nyeko, maybe you say this is a safe space for you, a Ugandan. I know you've not had such a. You can say, yeah, Museveni must go, and you are safe here.
Kingsman, stop. Kingsman is my little brother. He's always a catalyst. Don't mind.
Okay, Museveni should go. Museveni should go. Are you tired?
Okay. I think Maji, open your mic, but I can't hear you still. But it's okay. You go ahead. I've seen Dr. Ria as
Yes.
But Honorable Nyeko, let us be in touch. Okay, Kingsman, what I say?
So let me do this, Hillary. Dr. will go, and then I'll log out and come back again because you cannot hear me. Dr. feel free to chime in just before a minute before that. Nyeko, I have a feeling at the moment that Ruto is trying to bring in Uganda. You know, the techniques that are being used in Uganda, in Kenya, the catch and release, and this is going to destroy the youth. I know of people who were actually abducted in Uganda. They use the military. They start with the police, and at one point they use the military. And the kind of stress these people are having, because now they're abducting men. But you know the African nature, men are mostly taught not to speak out. So these people are not going to go for therapy. Then they realize months later, when they're walking on the street and they hear an ambulance, they start running crazy, you know. So the damage that the government is doing to the young generation is really enormous. And to me, it looks like it's a textbook from Uganda. But thanks for joining us. Dr. Go on as I log out and come again so that Hillary can hear me. Yeah.
Thank you, Hilary, and thank you, Marge, and everybody else who has spoken. I'll start by saying that as someone who has been abducted several times, tortured several times, sedated once, and forced into exile more than once, actually 3 times, 1988, 2018 twice. I would like to encourage everyone that these atrocities and abuses do not break committed and focused revolutionaries and fighters for justice. They may think that they have broken some of us, but in the whole, it steals us. It makes us more defiant. It makes us more fearless. So let's not fear for the people they have abducted, tortured, and released. If someone wanted to betray the cause, let them not use the abductions, the torture, and then the release as the excuse. If you wanted to join Ruto and don't give the excuse that it is because he arrested you. A committed fighter for freedom will not be broken even in death. We saw it when Patrice Lumumba was abducted, degraded, tortured, and he died with his head held up in 1964. Patrice Lumumba remains as the symbol of African defiance in the face of atrocities. And Ruto cannot be compared to the Belgians in Congo, or Mobutu in the Congo, or Amin in Uganda, or any of these characters who have tried to cling to power through brute force and failed. William Ruto is not more powerful than the Napoleon, all right? William Ruto is not more powerful than all the big dictators like Ceausescu or Marcos of the Philippines. William Ruto is actually a small, tiny insect compared to those dictators. And therefore, William Ruto cannot defeat the people of Kenya. Let us make that very clear. It does not matter what he does. It does not matter how brutal he becomes. It does not matter how desperate he becomes. It does not matter the kind of threats he gives. Let us be resolved. Let us resolve and say that William Ruto will not break the people of Kenya down. He cannot defeat 54 million people. 1. Number 2, the struggle is protracted and must be protracted. The struggle cannot have one formula. It cannot have one form. It cannot have one way. So therefore, we must adopt many, many ways of weakening William Ruto, of spreading him thin, of disorganizing him, of confusing him, and then defeating him. So whoever wants to occupy strategic public spaces, do so. Do so in large numbers. It doesn't matter where. It doesn't matter for how long. We prefer that tactically this should be for many days running, because you don't want to give him a break. It has been actually tactically wrong to say we are going to have our protest on Tuesday and Thursday only. I don't know what that noise is, but I'm saying it is.
Sorry, I think Devina, please mute your mic. Go ahead, Dr.
It is strategic and tactical mistake to tell William Ruto in advance that we are going to only protest against you on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so that he can prepare, he can reorganize, he can re-strategize, he can rearm, he can redeploy his goons and his police to different places, because we've already announced what we are going to do. I believe that starting Tuesday, let us give William Ruto a fight to the end. Let us not give him any breathing space. Let us not retreat. Let us not go home. Let us not allow him to rearm. Let us weaken him and exhaust him until he falls. Somebody asked, third point, what are the steps, practical steps, to remove him? There is only one practical step. They are not steps. Once we occupy everywhere and we weaken William Ruto with continuous protests, like in Sri Lanka, or like in Sri Lanka in 2022, like in Philippines before and other countries, he will fall. William Ruto will fall. The world will abandon him. Everybody, including his allies, will run for their lives because they know when we catch them, they will be in jail, and he will naturally fall. So there is no way of saying there are practical steps. There is only one practical step, and that is protests. The third or fourth point, I have heard people say reforms. We don't want reforms. This word reforms make me mad, because these are the things that castrated our revolutions throughout history. The moment you bring this drip, little changes, it's like applying deodorant on a skunk. The skunk will smell even more. You don't want deodorant on a skunk. We want a total, complete overhaul. Anna Ali said, what was Ruto looking for? Because he held space, he bought Otero, he took him to State House, gave him a fake, tie, gave him some money, crumbs, and let them co-host his space. They said about 120,000 Kenyans attended. And yet William Ruto says nobody did attend. So clearly he was looking for someone. Maybe he was looking for us, the people in this group, to join, and we didn't, for good reasons. Because what is it that we are going to talk with William Ruto about? We saw how he treated the journalists, Linus Kaikai, Ageo, and Eric Latif. They went there to do their jobs. They asked him questions on behalf of Kenyans, and he treated them with total disrespect. He refused to answer any of the questions that he was asked. And he basically abused Kenyans. He said a little child who had been killed by the police was not shot 8 times, but the child died. Does it really matter?